So the last time we met, we were reviewing for the Bechina a couple of things I missed out. I know we spoke about the Hekesh of Schira L'Asiya, but the Gemara comes out that according to Arman da Amar, the Gemara says, it makes sense what we do with Medina and Ir V'ir. But according to Rabbi Shua ben Karcha, we know what we do with one, but what about the other? On that, Rabbi Shua ben Karcha asked on us, but even us, Medina is not needed because we learn from Prazi. And that the Gemara says, so Rabbi Shua ben Karcha says, obviously, Rabbi Shua ben Karcha says we need it for the drasha Rabbi Shua ben Levi, krach v'chol asamach lo v'chol anirimo nidum kekrach. Very important Rashi that I failed to mention was that Rashi says that once we bring in Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi that learns out krach v'chol asamach lo, we use all the words of the psukim for that. Because Rashi says, ubechiluk lo ayri. We're not using Medina and Ir to differentiate between any walled cities and not walled cities, any of that, like the Gemara thought originally. Some Rishonim learn like that we still learn that a little bit. But Rashi says we don't learn that at all. Elahachi kamar, kol Ir v'ir, those two ears. Every ear, asamach Medina, that's close to a Medina, Shetei Kamos has to be like that. So that's very important to know. That's that's definitely a question on the test that how does Rashi learn? At the end, he learns that we do not learn it from Ubechiluk Lo Ayri. We're not learning anything from those words except the drasha of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Okay. And just remember that other Rashi that we said, where does Shushan come from? Lo kaprazim velo like the Chomos, and the Gemara answered it's going to be Hol v'nasabo nes. It reads on the 15th, and we mentioned that Rashi says that it seems like there's some additional nes that happened with Shushan that they got a second day. That's considered a nes. Okay, next Gemara. The next Gemara is a little bit hard. I'm going to go with there's a lot of ways to learn the Gemara. I'm going to go with the Pnei Yeshua. It's just the simplest way for me to go, and I might stick in along my way a little bit of my understanding of how the Pnei Yeshua learns. So if someone might not see it straight out in Pnei Yeshua, a couple of small points, that's my fault. So Gemara says like this: Minatzbach means the letters of Mem, Nun, Sadi, Pei, and Chaf. Those are the letters that not only do we have letters psuchos, middle letters for that, we also have end letters for those. Mem has an end mem, Nun, Sadi, Pei, and Chaf. Those have end letters as well. So the Gemara says that Minatzbach, those letters, Sofim Amram, the Nevi'im created them. Tosfos mentions that there is a question between our Gemara and the Gemara in Shabbos. Does this mean that the Nevi'im mentioned they created, when it says they mentioned, it means they created it. Did they create the end letters or they created the middle letters? So Tosfos mentions there is a question about what it means. Did we have the end letters and the Nevi'im created the middle letters, the psuchos? Or did we have the psuchos and the Nevi'im ended the stumos, the end letters? So our Gemara, it seems, at least at the beginning, is going to be learning that it means the end letters. So he says, Minatzbach Sofim Amram, that those letters, the end letters, Sofim Amram, the Nevi'im, they're the ones that created it. Now, Rashi, the Mefarshim speak out. Tosfos asks, why do we have the letters out of order? It says Mem, Nun, Sadi, Pei, Chaf. The order of those letters should really be what? Chaf, Mem, Nun, Pei, Sadi. So Tosfos gives one answer that it means min safayach from your Nevi'im, but the Gaon, the Vilna Gaon, the Gra is Medayik and Rashi. Rashi says Sofim Amram Nevi'ei Hadoros. He says the Nevi'im of the generations. Why Rashi is saying that? Nevi'ei Hadoros, Nevi'im. Sofim are the Nevi'im, the ones that see. So the Gaon learns that the Nevi'im through the Doros, they added letters as they went. First they added a Mem, then a Tzad, then a Nun, then a Tzadi. It didn't all happen at once, and that's why the Minatzbach is in a different order. So ask the Gemara two questions on this point of Rav Chia bar Abba. First of all, V'tizbra, is this logical to say? Is this true? It says in the Torah, these are the mitzvos. These are the mitzvos, says these and what? Nothing else. Ela mitzvos she'ein navi rishoy l'chadish davar me'ata. From here on, when the Torah is given, a navi is not allowed to be mechadish anything. He's not allowed to add anything. So how could you say that? What? Then the Nevi'im created the letters, the end letters of Menatzbach. Nevi'im are not allowed to create anything from Nu va'od. That's question one. So remember that as question one. You're going to need to know for later in a Rashi. You're going to have to keep that in mind. Question two, va'od. Ha'amar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda said, now Rav Chisda was also an Amora, so the Gemara means Rav Chisda said, and everyone agrees to Rav Chisda was universally accepted. Mem v'samach shebeluchos b'neis hayomdim. This is a very famous statement that the mem and the samach in the luchos would stand with a nes. That means that the luchos were chakuk; they were carved through and through, right? So the on the luchos, if let's say you carved an aleph, they carved it all the way through and through. It was carved. Right, and it was actually a big nes was able to be read on both sides. But the main point we're focusing on is it was carved through and through. So you had an aleph chiseled out and a beis chiseled out. That's all great. But when you come to a samach or an en mem, if you chisel it out and make this hollow, what's the problem in that? Because what's in the center of the en mem and the samach? You have a center, you have a pintle. There's a point that's going to drop. So Rab Chisda says that mem v'samach shebeluchos b'neis hayomdim. There was a nes, and the en mem and the samach, they stayed hovering in the center, which is an amazing nes. So the Gemara asks an obvious question now. How could what Rabbi Yirmi v'Tem Rabbi Chia bar Abba say that the Nevi'im created the en letters? If we had in the luchos, way before the Nevi'im, if we had in the luchos the en mem, that means they didn't create the en letters. Right? B'nei Soim, they didn't create it. Okay? So on that, it happens to be Rashi asked the question, why don't you just answer? So just flip it and answer like the Gemara in Shabbos learns that they only created the middle letters, Rashi says. An easy answer, right? You understand the question Rashi asks? Rashi asks, instead, this second question is a great question if you learned that the Nevi'im created the end letters, but if you could just flip it and say they created and bring a proof that they created the middle letters. So Rashi says it's true, we could have answered that, but because that wouldn't have answered the first question, because you still can't create anything from Nu, the Nevi'im can't create anything, therefore we ended up answering a different answer. That's the top Rashi on Gimel Amud Aleph speaks about that. So on that answer, so the Gemara has two questions, clear. The Gemara has two questions. Rabbi Yirmiyah v'Tem Rabbi Chia bar Abba said that the Nevi'im created the end letters of Menatzbach. We asked two questions. First of all, they're not allowed to create anything from Nu. Second of all, we know they didn't create it because they were there in the times of what? When Moshe Rabbeinu brought down the Luchos. Answers the Gemara. Top line on Gimel Amud Aleph. In Mahava, you're right. Both the end letters and the middle letters were there from before. Except, what was the great thing that Rabbi Yirmiyah v'Tem Rabbi Chia bar Abba is saying that the Tzofim brought? What did the Nevi'im bring to us? So he says like this. This is the way the Pnei Yeshua learns. Is that the halacha was that the end letters and the middle letters, even though that's the best way to do it, that's the first way to do it, that's the way it was, that is the initial way, but you're allowed to put the end letters in the middle and you're allowed to put the middle letters at the end. You're allowed. It's kosher like that. It's kosher v'yosh. It's perfectly kosher. It's good. It's very good. It's not the exact way, but it's perfectly kosher to do it the way. So he says that it's possible. So therefore, right away when Moshe Rabbeinu gave the Torah and we had Sifrei Torah, the Jews, he said, had an affinity. They had a personal liking to the end letters. He doesn't say exactly why. I think what he means is, he says, because they were in the Luchos. So what? They were in the Luchos? Because I'm thinking that what he means is, the Pnei Yeshua, that since a great nace happened, so amazing nace, that the Samach hovered, the middle letter in the Mem, hovered, it was a great nace. We wanted to have a part of that nace. So therefore we had a pull toward those letters. You know what we did? We started writing Sifrei Torah with only the end letters. And you know what happened? Once we started writing Sifrei Torah with only the end letters, we forgot, wait a second, are those the middle letters? Are those the end letters? We got mixed up over time, which were the end letters and which were the middle letters. On that, says the Gemara, in Mahavi Avi, we had both the middle letters and the end letters. Below Aviyadi, Hai Be'emsa Teva, Vai B'sof Teva. At a certain point, we didn't know which letters were in the middle and which letters were at the end. Ba'asut Sofim, V'takinu, Psuchin Be'emsa Teva, Stumim B'sof Teva. And they reestablished that the Psuchin, that the middle letters go in the middle of the word, and the Stum and end letters go at the end of the word. But and one thing that they also did was, they also said, now, what's so great about that? We had the letters before, so what's the great thing that they did? So Pnei Yeshua adds, and they made it that it's possible if you do the end letter in the middle and the middle letter at the end, because otherwise what they do, they just told us what we knew already. We didn't remember which one, but it wasn't such a big deal. This is my own understanding of Pnei Yeshua. So therefore, you have to learn that what the Nevi'im did was they created something big. They did something great. They made a psul. They said if you do it wrong, it's going to be puzzle. Yes, the Gemara, wait a second. Then you have an obvious question, the same question as we asked before. If they created a psul, what's going to happen to all the Sefer Torah from the times of Moshe Rabbeinu? What's going to happen? It's going to be puzzle. They can't do that. They can't create a new psul. It says, we already said, Eila mitzvos. You're not allowed to create something, and that's obvious. And Rashi's going to ask on that. Isn't that obvious? That the Gemara what? The Gemara already had a question in the first answer that they can't add something. And now the Gemara is answering a new answer that's obvious that they can't do something, that they're not allowed to do that. We'll get to Rashi in a second. Says the Gemara, Sof, 4 lines down, Eila mitzvah she'eino v'yasid l'chadish davar ma'ata. Says the Gemara, Ella. Pnei Yeshua points out Ella. The Gemara is switching something. Shiklam. You have to say, what did they do so great, the Nevi'im? Shiklam, it was totally forgotten, the middle letters. Not that we weren't sure which one, where the middle letters went and where the end letters went. We weren't sure which one were middle and which one were end. They did something. What happened was, because we never used the middle letters, we forgot that they existed, or we forgot what they were. So comes along the Navi and reminded us a great thing they did for us. They brought it back to the table to remind us what they were. But they didn't say that it's going to be puzzle. They didn't say if you switch around, it's going to be puzzle. They were just reminding us what they were. So that's a great thing. And that's what they established. And that answers the question, did they create anything? No, they didn't create anything. Did they? What was the second question? We know it was in the times of the Luchos. Yes, it wasn't in the times of the Luchos because they didn't create it. So now getting back to Rashi. Rashi just asked, in the second Rashi, he has a kasha. He says, he doesn't speak it out, but this is what he means to ask. He says, I don't understand. Gemara at the beginning had a question that you can't create something. The Gemara gave an answer. And they gave an answer that was obviously where the Nevi'im were creating something again. They created a new psul in the second answer. So Rashi says it's normal, sometimes in the Gemara, it's normal to do that, where the Gemara is just leading up to the final answer and going step by step, knowing that the second answer is going to be uprooted, like the first answer. It's normal, says Rashi, the Gemara, to do that, to answer up davar she'eno, that doesn't hold, that's not right. Ad detarach mamid al buri, until it works. There's a girsa problem there in Rashi. Lahakshos should be lifrok, I think, to answer. Okay. Says the Gemara further. Now we come a little bit of an easier Gemara until the halfway down the Amid. Where are we holding in the time? Done? Okay. You know what? We'll finish the Amid tomorrow. It's an easy Amid. We'll try to finish. Thank you, everybody, for coming.